Right, year 10, we're going to have another go at this today. Hopefully this is a bit clearer now. I'm going to use a black pen this time to hopefully make my annotations a bit more clear. We're going to just recap what we said last lesson. So we came to the conclusion that Denise Levertov is imagining the worst case scenario for the people of Vietnam after the war. She's seeking to expose the brutalities of the American forces, especially given that she felt not enough truth was kind of been exposed in the news stories in the American media. And she's also considering the impact of the war from the point of view of the Vietnamese, and there was a lot of documented experiences of the American soldiers and the trauma that they experienced, but not so much of what happened to those in the war on the side of Vietnam. So she's seeking to give us a different point of view. So we talked about the question and answer structure last time, and we said that it's there to give the idea that possibly in the future Vietnamese culture has been wiped out as a result of the war. So this is some kind of exercise in someone finding out about the past of Vietnam, someone trying to find out about what Vietnam was like, and she's imagining kind of the Vietnamese traditions and such have been sort of killed off. So it could be that it's somebody in a history lesson, perhaps they're asking questions of a teacher has instructed someone to find something out, or it could be a journalist seeking answers from an expert. It's some sort of investigation. And again, Levertov's doing this to imagine a scenario where the only way to find out about the past of Vietnam is in a very documented way, not a real life way, just using records, because she's imagining that that's all that's left. So that's why we've got the question and answer structure. Just some other things to mention, and the fact that it's in free verse. And she's got the lines organised in a way, particularly in this first section, that allows for sort of intonation at the end to really convey the sense of questions being asked. We often raise our voices. So the structure of the line and the choices of the syllables allow for that. And the line breaks as well. Did the people of Vietnam use lanterns of stone? So where the lines break, that sort of fortifies this sense of a question being asked. Then when we move into the answers section, we have lines, particularly this first one, which is more of a succession of kind of monosyllabic words that they're like hearts turned to stone. Okay, so this signifies the change in tone. So we know we've gone from these like nice lyrical natural images and traditional images and sort of charming, peaceful, innocent images of a place where people are having symbolic ceremonies and perhaps showing enjoyment in life with their quiet laughter, to a world where hearts are turned to stone. So we mentioned the metaphoric relevance of that last time, didn't we? Literally heart turning to stone, where you've got the implication of death, but you've also got the implication of like a loss of feeling. That sort of numb sensation that people often report as being part of like the PTSD experience of something as traumatic as well. So hopefully you can just see my annotation there. So we move to this tone in the second part of the answers, which is much more to the point and a lot less lyrical, which matches some of the images which we described, I think, last time as a little bit jolting and perhaps even upsetting. So let's just talk a little bit about the imagery. So up in this first section, we've got sort of natural imagery. We've got lanterns of stone. We've got this ceremony with the opening of buds. We've got elemental imagery, don't we, of the jade and the silver. So we're getting sort of the idea that this culture is one that is perhaps more at one with nature, one that gives importance to symbolic ceremonies, and even indeed if they are revering the opening of buds, this again sort of depicts the idea that we have a culture that is peaceful and at one with nature. And this really kind of builds up in our minds a peaceful people. And then, of course, you've got the juxtaposed images which come later on of the burned mouth and the charred bones, which are allusions to napalm and the dropping of napalm bombs on the people of Vietnam. So the forces that were trying to be kind of like almost burnt out of cover by the American forces, the communist forces that were they were fighting with. We've also that this kind of idea of the people being peaceful comes also later on as well, doesn't it? In that they are people who are farming in the fields, the paddies, the rice fields, and this idea of peaceful clouds reflected, and we've got the images of the water buffalo. So we've got this idyllic sort of unindustrial, really, imagery, which again in our minds creates a very heavy juxtaposition with the actions of America that are being depicted, of the bombs smashing and the effects of that, the screams. Okay, so that is a contrast that Levertov is purposefully making, and I guess it works towards creating empathy for the people of Vietnam, the people that were having their cultures and traditions and lives and livelihoods destroyed by the American action in Vietnam. So let's just get down that these images are also allusions to napalm. Oh, we've got that there already. Let's just put some arrows. So let's just move towards the end of the poem. We already mentioned yesterday the passive voice. It was reported. It is not remembered. So the fact that, you know, we don't say they don't remember, we're not saying they don't remember, the people don't remember. It's just saying it was reported and it is not remembered. This kind of depersonalization. Adding to this sense of like, who does this culture belong to anymore? Perhaps nobody, perhaps it's now just an artifact. It's just like a relic of the past because it was destroyed potentially. I don't think Levertov lived to see the end of the war. But she is imagining, you know, the absolute worst case scenario. So some kind of documented history, but not anything tangible in terms of living memory. That living memory is gone, it's depersonalised. Because perhaps in this world she's imagining, there's no one to give a first-person account. So we move to the end of the poem and we've got the answer to question 6. Did they distinguish between speech and singing? There is an echo yet of their speech, which was like a song. So there is something, but let's just think about that metaphor of an echo. An echo isn't the original, it's only a copy. And it's something you hear in the distance. So again, strengthening this idea that Levertov is putting forward to us, that there are only remnants. There's nothing original. There's nothing solid. There's not some kind of hardcore evidence anymore. It's just reports and dribs and drabs of a culture that is left. So there is an echo yet of their speech, which was like a song. It was reported that their singing resembled the flight of moths in moonlight. So we've got this really lovely lyrical image here. This is very poetic. And it's a lovely expression. And this kind of suggests a delicacy of the traditions and the ways of people in Vietnam, and perhaps this idea of a moth, which is something which is quite delicate and easily broken, suggests the fragility of culture, tradition, of people, their livelihoods, and very much the delicacy of this is juxtaposed with the heavy-handed tactics of America that we see alluded to with the napalm imagery. Who can say? Indeed, who can? We don't know. It's a good question to ask. It is silent now. Now, of course, this it refers to their singing, doesn't it? We can't hear their singing anymore. But there's also a greater sort of this it is working very hard here, because it's actually almost like a kind of metonymy, really. Because this it represents not just their singing. This tiny word, I think, is a reference to a country, its culture, its tradition, its people. So this tiny word here, I think, represents this, and she is imagining that in this worst case scenario, it is silent now. That this place, this culture, these people, they are no more. So it's a warning against the destruction that military action can have.